All right, everyone. So thank you for coming to Beating the Winter Blues. Our presenters today are Jenny and Shannon. Jenny is a family and consumer sciences educator for OSU Extension in Franklin County. She has a bachelor's degree in human nutrition and a master's in public health, both from OSU. She is registered and licensed as a dietitian in the state of Ohio. As an extension educator, she specializes in food, nutrition, and wellness, and she enjoys teaching about healthy eating, active living, and using mindfulness to cope with stress. We've also got Shannon with us. Shannon is the family and consumer sciences educator for the OSU Extension in Fairfield County. She has a bachelor's and master's from OSU in family relations and human development. She's passionate about helping people live smart by sharing research-based information through programs and media. Her favorite topics include workplace wellness, mindfulness, and youth wellness. So now I'm going to turn it over to Jenny and Shannon.
Thank you, Jamie, for that introduction. And thank you, everyone, for joining us tonight. And I don't know if it's funny or not that our topic is beating the winter blues. And boy, did we get the winter weather in Central Ohio and I think everywhere north of Central Ohio as well. So so I'm going to put a link here in the chat that is from today's Live Healthy, Live Well blog by a colleague of ours. The title of it is called I Can't Control the Winter Weather. And the first line of it I just love, so I thought I would share that with you all. It says, if you choose not to find joy in the snow, you will have less joy in your life, but still the same amount of snow. So I thought that was a good thought to focus us as we get started. And a little bit about Ohio State University Extension. We are an outreach of the Ohio State University, and we're located in every county across Ohio. And we bring research-based information from the university out to the people in the places where they work and live. And it's Jenny and my pleasure to be here tonight with you. And as Jamie said, Jenny is in Franklin County and I'm at Fairfield County, just a neighbor down in Lancaster. And so we often team up. And this is a topic that we have developed a series of programs around, and we love to teach together, and both have experienced some winter blues ourselves from this. So I'm glad you're here. I hope you're all safe and warm at home and cozy while we talk about some strategies that we can use. So when we talk about winter blues, first we talk about what those symptoms are. We also talk about something else called seasonal affective disorder, or SAD. We learned some tips for beating those winter blues, and then finally setting a SMART goal to help us do that. Well, to start off, I would like to ask you, how does winter affect you? And if you want to type some things in chat, you're welcome to. Winter might affect us physically, emotionally, mentally, and there's a whole lot of different ways that people have found that it can affect them. Some examples of that have been, maybe physically, some aches and pains. I know when it's cold, the colder temperatures, I tend to shrug my shoulders. It's kind of what we do when we shiver. And that's the same muscles that also hold my stress, all that tension in my neck and shoulders. So it's kind of a double whammy for me when it's cold and I'm stressed. Some people have found that winter affects them emotionally by being maybe a little bit shorter tempered or irritable with others, maybe quicker to respond, maybe over responding emotionally to something that might upset them normally just a little. They might find it upsets them a lot. And mentally, some examples would be inability to focus, where it's difficult to concentrate, those sorts of things. So we find that winter can have so many different effects on people. And we mention this because people may not realize that it would be associated with winter. And so, someone shared in the chat, I feel more tired when it gets dark out so early. And that is definitely a very common symptom of how winter can affect us. Well, and there's reasons for that, which we'll see here. Obviously, the days are shorter, so we have fewer hours of daylight. We have those colder temperatures, And with this decrease in the natural light in winter months, it actually changes our brain chemistry. The levels of the neurotransmitter, which is a brain chemical, serotonin, that is one of those feel-good brain chemicals. It drops in winter months, while levels of melatonin, which is sleep promoting, actually increase. So the combination of these two actually can change our brain chemistry. So that can lead to mild depression or the more serious condition of seasonal affective disorder. And this is a type of depression that's directly related to changes in the seasons. Usually it begins and ends about the same time every year. And most people with SAD have symptoms that start in the fall and they continue through the winter months. Now, this impacts about 6% of Americans each year. And some things that may increase someone's risk of SAD include being female. SAD is diagnosed 4 times more often in women than men. Living far from the equator. Sunlight is a factor here, right? So people who live further away from the equator might experience this more often. So here's an example. 1% of those who live in Florida are diagnosed with SAD compared to 9% of those who live in New England or Alaska. So definitely the sunlight is a factor here. Also, family history. People with a family history of other types of depression are more likely to develop SAD than people who don't have a family history. Also, younger adults have a higher risk of SAD than older adults. And SAD has been reported in children and even teens. So we don't have the exact causes of SAD and that those are unknown, but they have found some biological clues, which gives us hope that they may help us better know how to treat this. But they found that some people with SAD have trouble regulating one of those key neurotransmitters that we're involved in mood, like we talked about with serotonin. Another factor is people with SAD may overproduce melatonin. So they're that more depressed mood combined with feeling more sleepy. And darkness with the less hours of daylight also increases our production of melatonin. So it's kind of like a double whammy for some people who may overproduce that. Also, people with SAD may produce less vitamin D. And vitamin D is something that our body produces also when we are out in the sun. And so we get it from our diet. We also get it in the sun. And it's why it's recommended that we have 15 minutes of daylight of outside time every day. Now, some of the symptoms in SAD might be things like a change in appetite or weight, so weight loss or weight gain, changes in our sleep patterns, and that could mean sleeping all the time, or it could mean sleeping much less or unable to sleep. It's often reported to have fatigue or decreased energy, inability to concentrate, kind of that foggy brain, irritability, like we mentioned, social withdrawal to the point of isolation, where you really don't feel like getting out much. Also, sadness, anxiety, or hopelessness. And again, these are all symptoms of SAD. That's a diagnosable seasonal affective disorder, and it's diagnosable by a psychologist or a mental health professional. And it's a depression is defined as a period of at least 2 weeks or longer of a depressed mood. Now, so this is the more serious, what we call seasonal affective disorder. But we also have where some people just feel a little blah, they feel a little down, well, more what we would call the winter blues. And so this would be some of the examples of these symptoms is feeling sluggish or sleepy. Again, we might have increased or decreased appetite, depressed mood, feeling less social. It takes a little more energy to overcome all that to kind of get past that and want to get out and see everyone. And I see that I missed another chat message that said the tips of my fingers seem to get colder faster than years ago. So I have warmer gloves or mittens. So that's, yeah, definitely both a way of how winter affects you, but also how you've coped with that. So you've teamed up with some things to combat the cold.
So the good news is that there are strategies we can use to beat the winter blues. They're pretty common. We probably all experienced them to some degree at some point. And a few years ago, Shannon and I do this presentation quite a bit in January. And a few years ago, I was actually preparing for this presentation, and I heard on the radio that statistically it was the most depressing week of the year. It was mid-January because the holidays are over. During the holidays, we just have a lot going on, a lot of stimuli, gatherings, things to look forward to, lights. And we take that all down, the gatherings end, and it's still cold and dark. And so it kind of makes sense when you think about it in that way, that January is statistically the most, that specific week in January is the most depressing week of the year. But there are things we can do to help cope with these winter blues. And we share that information about seasonal affective disorder to say that, if you're trying these coping strategies and it just doesn't seem to be enough, if you are experiencing those symptoms to the point where they're interfering with your daily life, your ability to carry out your daily activities, then please do seek help. You can talk to your primary care doctor or a mental health professional, because there are some things that they might recommend, whether it be medication or light therapy, a supplement like vitamin D supplement. If these coping strategies we'll go through tonight just aren't enough. But there are a lot of things that we can use just to cope with what we're talking about as the winter blues, just feeling a little bit more sluggish or a little bit more depressed or unmotivated, that urge to hibernate. I think that kind of is a good way to sum it up, just wanting to stay in. And we'll go through quite a few things, and you don't have to try to do them all. So there's a lot of options here. And I would even say, pick one thing to try. Don't try to do them all. It can be overwhelming to try to do too much at once. One of the best things that you can do is to get outside. As Shannon mentioned, those changes in our brain chemistry this time of year have to do with the shorter hours of daylight. And so if you can spend, even 5 minutes outside when the sun is out, that can do wonders just to help, reset the changes that are happening to your brain. Give yourself a little bit of a serotonin boost and help with the melatonin to have a more regular, sleep wake cycle, even though it's getting dark earlier. And one piece of hope I like to hold on to is that each day is just a little bit longer. So we had our winter solstice back in December, and now each day is just a little bit longer. That helps me get through this time of year. But if you're able to, go outside for a walk, even if it's cold, bundle up, even a short walk when the sun is out can be helpful, or just spending time in nature. If you're not able to get out and walk, just, sitting on the front porch and observing nature, observing the snowfall, or listening for the birds or whatever it may be. Just, if you can get just a little bit of sunlight, as long as it's not dangerous. So we always like to share that caveat. If it is dangerously cold or icy, please do not put your physical health at risk for that that serotonin boost. But if, even if it's cold, as long as it's not dangerously cold, then spending a little time outside can be a wonderful strategy to help beat the winter blues. And getting moving as well, whether it's outdoors or indoors. There's been a lot of research to support the benefits of exercise for our mental health in addition to our physical health. You may have heard of the runner's high, and that has to do with those feel-good brain chemicals that are released when someone is doing physical activity. And you don't have to be in training for a marathon or doing long distance runs or, intense activity to experience that, that boost. You can, just doing activity to get your body moving feels good. So, the recommendation is to get 150 minutes of moderate intensity exercise or activity per week. But any activity is better than none. So whether you're doing formal exercise or just physical activity that encompasses any sort of movement we're doing within our day, it all has benefit, getting your body moving and the blood flowing to your brain. And I do know that it can be hard to get motivated to get moving this time of year when we feel that urge to just hibernate. And when it's dark, we want to stay in and not go out. So I do like to share some tips to help you get motivated and stay motivated. The first being just focusing on physical activities that you enjoy. So if we have this connotation that exercise is work, and we often think of it that way, and sometimes even call it working out, it's going to be less enjoyable than if we're doing activities we do enjoy. So for someone, it might be swimming or water aerobics, and someone else might enjoy running or walking, cycling, dancing, whatever activity it is you enjoy, you're going to be more likely to stick with it. If it's versus something that you're forcing yourself to do. Another thing that may be beneficial for some, excuse me, is making exercise a social activity. And that could be by doing a group fitness class, either in person or virtually. There are some virtual fitness classes available now, or maybe having a walking partner, whether that be indoors or outdoors. If you're someone who is craving that social interaction and you're able to work that into your fitness, then that's just an added benefit. It's kind of two strategies there for beating the winter blues, having that connection, which Shannon will talk about in a bit, and getting that activity in. You also want to be comfortable. No, I'm not talking about like not stretching yourself at all, but that idea of no pain, no gain really isn't true. So you don't want to be in pain when you're exercising. You do want to stretch yourself outside your, your what I would say maybe your comfort level at times. But if you're in pain, then stop and reassess what you're doing. Another thing you might try is rewarding yourself, and that could be pairing an activity that you enjoy, like reading or listening to a podcast or an audiobook, or watching TV with your activity. So maybe there's a TV show you like, and you say, I'm going to maybe use a piece of exercise equipment like a stationary bike or a treadmill while you're watching that show, or even just walking in place while you're watching that show. You're doing, you're consuming some sort of entertainment that you like, but you're also being active while you're doing it. We'll talk about goal setting later. But setting reasonable goals for yourself is certainly important, and getting rid of that all or nothing attitude, because we know that when you're getting started with exercise, as with any goal, there may be obstacles and setbacks. And so being realistic, preparing for those, and starting over when you do fall behind versus, giving up. That's the all or nothing thing, can help you to stay on track. And we'll talk more about goal setting in a little bit. In addition to exercise and physical activity, there are other ways we can take care of our physical bodies that help us to beat the winter blues. One of them is by getting enough sleep. We know that think about how you feel when you don't get a good night's sleep. You might be irritable, cranky. And so if you're already in a little bit of a different mood or more irritable because of the winter, and then you layer the lack of sleep on top of that, it just kind of compounds the challenges you're already facing. So having some habits in place, like having regular sleep or wake times, having a comfortable bedroom, maybe limiting technology an hour before bed to help you fall asleep. Those could be strategies if what you're choosing to do to cope with the winter blues is to make sure you're getting enough sleep. And then fueling your body with nutritious food is another way you can take care of yourself to help beat the winter blues. So often this time of year, we crave comfort foods, things that are rich or sweet, and they may taste good and feel good in the moment. But what happens when we only consume those foods is we get into this cycle of you crave it, you eat it, and then you kind of have that crash. And so when you crash, if you're not fueling yourself with nutritious foods after that crash, you just kind of get into this cycle where you're repeating that, and you always feel depleted rather than nourished. So choosing to fuel your body with fruits and vegetables and whole grains and lean protein will help keep your energy levels up and can even boost your mood. There's a lot to be said about getting the right nutrients to help with our mood and our mental health. So choosing to fuel your body with those nutritious foods first, and still indulge in the sweets from time to time is fine, but it's a matter of of balance there, where you're fueling your body right so that you're avoiding those crashes, which really just compound what you're already experiencing.
Great. And another thing that we talk about with beating the winter blues is being mindful. And if you've ever heard the term mindfulness, or maybe some of you have practiced mindfulness, that is wonderful. For tonight, we'll just define it quickly as being in the present moment and being intentional about it and not being judgmental about that. So we really just encourage people to just really be present in that current moment. And one of the ways that we suggest doing that is to do the opposite of multitasking, where we're trying to do so many things at one time, and just do one thing at a time. So that's that little word up there, unitask. Just think about doing one thing at a time. And I know on days, today was one, when I have difficulty focusing and I think, how am I going to get all this done? I say, okay, I'm going to do this one thing. If it takes me, 10 minutes, 20 minutes, I'm just going to focus. And maybe that means I need to close other things down so I can just do that one thing. And really, it's like giving your brain a little bit of a break, because we don't really multitask very well. Another reminder or thought is to turn daily tasks into mindful moments. And that can be as simple as that morning cup of coffee or tea, just, using your senses to really smell and taste that beverage. Especially, we talk about this in the winter, a nice hot cup of tea or a hot cup of coffee. You can smell it, you can feel it, you can taste it, and you can also feel it as you swallow it, feel that hot liquid. And it can just be really comforting and soothing. And so that's just one example. Sometimes that daily task might be something as simple as washing your hands, where you're, again, maybe using your senses to notice how the water and the soap feel on your hands. And for some people, it might be taking a shower. So again, rather than dreading what's coming up or worrying about what's already passed, we're just focused on the current moment. Another way to help do this is to take time away from technology. And we say that we recognize the irony of that we are coming to you via technology tonight. But when possible, like Jenny mentioned, we sleep better if we turn off the technology at least an hour before bed, sometimes 2 hours before bed. Maybe that's the time to read or listen to music or do something else. So sometimes we just need a break away from that technology, especially news, other things that, weather reports. No, just turn that off. Take some time away from all that. And then being creative is another way to beat the winter blues. Some people have found that journaling is extremely helpful and just kind of writing down thoughts from the day or different experiences. And sometimes it's a way to realize how far you've come on a journey. Seeking new experiences is another way that can help transform us to see our situation with new eyes, maybe even finding new purpose. And so sometimes just that act of trying something new or learning something new can spark your brain and that creative side of your brain, and that can help boost your mental mood as well. And then finding or engaging in a hobby is really important. Something that you enjoy, something that you can do, maybe by yourself when a friend's not available, something that brings you joy. And, I think we all have a need for creative expression, and finding a way to do that, whether it's writing or art or photography or painting. And I love it that they now have what they call adult coloring books, which, I still enjoy the kids coloring books. And even just seeing the colored pencils there makes me excited. And then finally, finding things to be thankful for and finding can really inspire gratitude. And when you share that gratitude with others by, maybe writing a note of thankfulness and thank you for doing something for me, that really, it helps that other person, but it also helps whoever's writing that note. It just really does make a big difference. And there's more and more research coming out about this all the time, about how gratitude can literally make a shift in our mental mood. It's also important to connect with others, even when we naturally want to hibernate. Winter makes us tend to withdraw a little bit, socialize and connect with others. If you can't get together safely, either because of the weather or because of, COVID related things, can you call a friend? Can you text someone? Can you Zoom with them? And just find a way to connect. I think one speaker once that we had for extension encouraged us to, I think the challenge was 2 before 10. So text 2 people before 10 a.m. And whether you're just connecting with them, or maybe that's your chance to say, with a note of gratitude, thank you so much, and can uplift both of your days. Another way to connect is to volunteer in your community, whether it's a church or a local social service organization. United Way has many opportunities for volunteering, and that can really help because again, we're focused on someone else, and that's always helpful, but we also can connect. It's another way to connect with people and find purpose. And it's important to play. When's the last time you played? When's the last time you had a really good laugh? My husband and I were watching something last night that had us both crying, laughing on TV. And we said, man, it's been a while since we've laughed that hard. So find a favorite comedian that you enjoy, check out some of their DVDs from the library, and just enjoy that. And then if it's, we have found that when we purchase the DVD from our favorite comedian, we can only watch it 2 or 3 times ourselves, our own family. But when we have, it stops being quite as funny. But if you have a new friend over that hasn't seen it, it's fun to watch it all over again with someone new to laugh with. So just a little tip on laughter. They say that 20 seconds of heavy laughter, like the belly laugh, is the cardiovascular equivalent to 3 minutes of strenuous rowing. I don't know about you, but I'd much rather laugh hard for 20 seconds than row for 3 minutes. And then, as Jenny mentioned in the beginning, we always encourage you to seek help. If you've tried some of these tips and you feel like you're maybe winter blues are to the point of affecting your functioning, certainly talk with your doctor, talk with a mental health professional. Now, a doctor could maybe give you some more information about whether they think a light therapy box or like a vitamin D supplement or some other medication might be helpful in your situation. But we at this point would leave that up to the medical professionals and encourage you to seek help there.
All right, so we've shared a variety of strategies you might consider for beating the winter blues. And what we want to encourage you to think about now is setting a goal for yourself. So what one thing did you hear about tonight that you might want to try this coming week? And we encourage you to set a SMART goal. If you're not familiar with that, it stands for a goal that's specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and timely. I like to use exercise as an example because I've set some SMART goals related to exercise myself over the years. So for example, a SMART goal, rather than just saying I want to exercise more, could be I want to do one fitness class a week for the next month, or maybe you have an activity tracker, a watch that you wear, or an app that you use, and maybe your SMART goal is to get 10,000 steps a day, at least 5 days a week. So something like that is more specific than just saying I want to exercise more, I want to walk more. It's measurable because you know whether or not you've achieved your goal. And you want to think about something that's attainable for you. So if you're not, doing any exercise right now, then, maybe one class a week or, walking 1 day a week is attainable versus saying I want to do something 5 days a week. You want to do something that's relevant to your goal and something that is timely as well. So we encourage you to think about something you could do this week or this month and then build on that as you go on versus, setting something that's, more lofty or high in the sky and then giving up when you don't reach it. So that's an example of a SMART goal related to exercise, but you could set a goal for yourself related to any of the strategies we've talked about tonight. Getting a better night's sleep or eating more nutritiously. Maybe it's volunteering, maybe it's connecting with other people, maybe it's being creative. Another goal example I like to share is the year 2020 when the vaccine wasn't available yet, and my family wasn't traveling at all. We set a goal for ourselves to visit all the metro parks that year. And we did, and it was a lot of fun. It gave us something to look forward to doing on the weekends, just to get out of the house, try something new. So, we talk about the creativity and getting out of a rut. And so that's an example of maybe trying something new. If you're looking for something a little bit more creative, some other ideas for trying something new could be as simple as, trying a new recipe, maybe trying a new recipe once a week or once a month, or visiting a new restaurant. It doesn't have to be as complex as something like learning a new language or a new instrument, though it could be if you are in a place where that's something you want to take on. But lots of different examples of goals you could set for yourself. And if you're comfortable and want to share what you're thinking about trying, you're welcome to share that in the chat. Or you can unmute, it's a small group tonight, but you're certainly welcome to keep that private as well if it's just something that you want to think about on your own.
Jenny, I like how you shared examples from all the different areas that we talked about, because often people think, exercise related, but, small changes are important. And if you start with just a small change, that can be so much of a springboard for you to work on the next one. And I, want to say that even as an educator, I don't have all these things down, and I certainly still set goals for myself. And one that I've been working on more recently is that regular sleep schedule, because I tend to be a night owl, but the rest of my life is not allowing that, with, kids up for high school and getting to work at 7:30 and all of that. So I tend to burn the candle on both ends, and that's not good. So that's what I'm going to be working on, and, just making sure I do all the things I need to, and remember that sleep is my friend.
We will also leave you with the reminder that spring is coming. So, it's never a bad time to set a SMART goal for yourself and work on your own self-care, whether it be to beat the winter blues or just to be a more healthy person, a better version of yourself. But we do this time of year have that glimmer of hope that spring is on its way.
Did you see our chat message?
Yeah, trying a new recipe for bean soup. Soup sounds wonderful on a day like today. I love that. And wacky cake, that sounds really interesting.
It sounds fun.
Mhm. I see the goal there to put my phone away an hour before bed. That's a great goal. We talk about, I have a whole presentation just on, we call them digital detoxing strategies. And that's a big one, it's amazing when we really stop to think about it, how our devices can interfere with our sleep, both the amount of sleep we're getting as well as the quality sometimes. And so trying to put the devices away and do a quiet activity before bed can really help get into that better sleep rhythm. And just turning off some of the notifications can make a big difference sometimes as well. So on my phone, I probably have more notifications off than I do on. I have them on for text messages and phone calls, but I don't get notified for new emails coming in. If I want to check my email, I can open up the app. Most of my apps, I have the notifications turned off, and that way I'm not, constantly bombarded by notifications and distracted in that way. So that's another fairly easy thing to do if you're looking to eliminate some of that noise in your life. And we have a lot of great resources from OSU Extension. We have 2 health and wellness blogs, Live Smart Ohio and Live Healthy, Live Well. And Shannon shared the link to the most recent Live Healthy OSU article at the beginning of this session. The topic was just perfect on mindfulness and how we can't control the winter weather, but we can control our reaction to it. So those are both great resources for all kinds of health and wellness topics. And then there are some additional resources listed there specific to what we talked about tonight, seasonal affective disorder specifically. And our contact information is there as well. If you have questions for us, you're welcome to ask them now, either by typing in the chat or unmuting. You're also welcome to reach out to either of us later on if you have questions you want to send our way more privately.
So Jamie, we'll turn it back over to you. I think you had an evaluation you wanted to share.
I do, yeah. So I will be sending out the recording of this presentation, and then also a link to a survey. We would love to hear from you, what you liked, what you got out of it, if you have other ideas, for similar programming or totally different programming that the library can do. Again, like they said, if you've got any questions, feel free, unmute and ask, or you can put them in the chat, whatever you prefer.
We do have some mindfulness classes planned for March, so keep an eye out for those if that was a topic you want to learn a little bit more about.
We do, yeah. I find that especially helpful in the winter. It's easy for me to start anticipating what's the drive to work going to be like, how are the roads going to, sort of get in that more negative mental space, but just focusing on what am I doing right now, that's really helpful for me. So yep, we'll have a series of 3 programs about mindfulness in March. If that's something that interests you and that you think would be helpful, definitely sign up for that. Nicely, we've got a couple positive comments in the chat. Good presentation. Thank you. Lots of food for thought. So yeah, I think if there are no questions right now, we can go ahead and say goodbye. Like I said, I will be sending out a link to the recording as well as a link to our survey, and Shannon and Jenny's contact information. Feel free to email me or email them with any questions that you might think of later.